Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After running through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. So, we continue our struggle, ladies and gentlemen, on finding news. I mean, there's not a lot of news. This is probably going to be another short episode, unfortunately. But we keep it going here. This first news story comes from NFL Rumors, TradeRumors.com. And it's just a couple little notes here. This first note is a survey from executives around the league and some of the things that they had to say about the Dolphins. They said, quote, "I like what the Dolphins did between adding quality free agents and bringing in guys that Brian Flores is familiar with from the Patriots system. Byron Jones is a really good corner. I mean, their secondary is strong now, and then their draft, I thought it was absolutely spectacular." So, some praise there from executives. I feel like every time we've ever read anything from random executives around the league, it's been kind of negative. So, it's nice to hear something positive. Doesn't mean anything, no. But, I guess it's some kind of national media attention that the Dolphins really just don't get that much. You kind of hear the Jets a lot, the Bills a lot, and the Patriots a lot. You don't really hear about the Dolphins in it too much of a positive light. So it's kind of nice to hear that. And this next little note here, it comes from NFL Media's Mark Sessler, and they all picked their breakout candidates, and his breakout candidate was quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, who he thinks will be a breakout player in 2020 and make his first Pro Bowl in 2020 as a rookie. So if he made a Pro Bowl as a rookie, obviously he's going to have a really good statistical year, and he would have to be Offensive Rookie of the Year at that point. And I think his name helps him a little bit in that crusade as well. But if he went to the Pro Bowl, then he should be a shoo-in for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I can't remember the last Offensive Rookie of the Year off the top of my head right now. If somebody wants to put that down in the comment section below, how many years it's been exactly, that would be pretty cool. So if we got an Offensive Rookie of the Year, that would be pretty amazing. So a couple of little interesting nuggets there. Let's move on to some real hard, concrete news. Some interesting news. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins have not discussed an extension for running back Matt Breida. The Dolphins acquired running back Matt Breida from the 49ers in exchange for the 153rd overall pick in this year's draft, and Breida is scheduled for unrestricted free agency at the end of the 2020 season. However, Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald writes that the team has not discussed an extension with Matt Breida, which makes sense, and I think the reason Matt Breida is probably not, making too big of a deal about it is because he understands I haven't finished the season healthy, especially when my name's been called a significant amount. I need to prove that I can do that. This is a 1-year proven deal. He's not even really. We just really need him to succeed in his role. We're not asking him to be the bell cow. We're asking him to just be a change of pace guy, get us some yards in the passing game, and really just, like I said, a change of pace guy. Add a one-play touchdown element to our offense. He adds a lot of speed to our offense. We just need to see him utilize those abilities and give us really good production. And if he can do that, then there's no doubt in my mind that he would be extended. And like I said, not asking too much of him. He's not the bell cow. He doesn't have the Derrick Henry weight on his shoulders where he has to be the guy. And if he's not a Pro Bowler, it's a disappointment. He just has to be a really good change of pace type of back. And just be a good counterpart to Jordan Howard in this offensive attack. So it should be pretty good. And like I said, if all things do go well, both sides should be happy. And I really wouldn't worry about a Matt Breida extension right now. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Are the Dolphins backing off Logan Ryan? Despite making major investments at the cornerback this offseason and signing Byron Jones and drafting Noah Igbenogany in the first round, the Dolphins were linked to Logan Ryan from multiple sources, but the team may have backed off in this pursuit. The Dolphins are not aggressively pursuing the free agent cornerback, according to Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald. Which kind of sucks that they kind of stopped. It says, the quote is that they're not aggressively pursuing him anymore, which is kind of crazy that they were that adamant about it at first, but that doesn't mean that he can't be a Dolphin anymore. I'm sure maybe Logan's trying to feel it out, maybe he gets a better deal I'm sure if our deal was inferior to the Jets deal, then he would already be a Jet. So that deal might not be that great either. But it would be, I mean, this is probably his last contract of his career. He's not the same player that he used to be. He's a good number 2. I think if he was a Dolphin, we would ask him to play free safety. He is a very good tackler, a very physical player. I think he had like 6 sacks last year. He can bring down the ball carrier. Very versatile. And he can do a lot of different things, and he knows the system. And if it's going to be a shortened season and a shortened off-season, that could help the team out a lot. Plus, he adds a lot of veteran experience to the back end, especially at that free safety spot, which is really wide open right now. I think, like I've said before, he would be a very good addition to the team. We'll see where things land. But I could see why, and to some people, it's like, why did the Dolphins trying to get another corner? I think he will try to play free safety. And like I said, this is his last contract. He's probably looking for a good chunk of change. And his season last year as the number 2 corner, he really was that. Now, when Malcolm Butler got hurt, I still feel like Adoree Jackson, who was also inconsistent. But again, you can kind of see some of the aging hitting Logan Ryan's game. So, I don't think you're getting, and like I said, I don't think he would play the slot corner or the outside corner position. Of course he wouldn't. I think those slots are filled. I think he would play the free safety position. So it kind of sucks, but that doesn't mean he can't still be a Dolphin. Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully somehow he comes back around to the Dolphins, because I think it would be a great addition to the team to get his skill set on that back end, and especially with that veteran leadership. And like I said, his best ball was in this system. So I think all of those things, if we're giving him a good amount of money, I don't know why he wouldn't take the deal. It could prolong. He could even get an extension by the end of the year, and it could prolong his career. I think there's a lot of positives if he were to join the Dolphins. This next news story is a big one. It comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins training camp delay in play. Now, there's a lot of things going into this that people have to think about. It is a pretty interesting situation, to say the least. The coronavirus continues to spread at a record pace in several states, and Florida's 15,000 cases Sunday set a national single-day record. As a result, Dolphins training camp is in real jeopardy. The Dolphins' representatives have said, quote, everything is up in the air regarding training camp. So, this means a lot of different things. The first thing I think about is preseason has already been cut down. The regular season is in jeopardy. California's teams don't seem to be like that's going to be going anytime soon. How does the commissioner handle this? Because it's a competitive advantage if certain teams don't have delays in their training camp due to the fact of their state situations. So how he's going to handle this is going to be very interesting. If somehow all the teams get the same amount of time anyway, because training camp does start on different dates for different teams. So maybe that's how he's going to handle it. But if it gets really bad and you miss 2 weeks and the schedule's just ruined at that point, how does he handle that with the other teams? Because the Ravens can't just be 2 weeks into training camp. You got a week of training camp. They got 3 weeks of training camp. And, that's a big difference. And I don't... It's going to be interesting to see how that's handled. I hope the Dolphins... Florida's in a very bad spot right now with the virus and the spiking and all that stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how the commissioner handles this, because this has got to be the worst state the league has been in since probably the early 80s, and then before that, the merger, because he has got to navigate some serious choppy waters, and it's going to be interesting to see how he handles it. It's a very weird spot to be in if you're the commissioner of the league, because it is a competitive disadvantage if certain teams get more practice time than others. So, and it's not voluntary. Like you can't not practice. It's not it's not some team being a bad organization. It's kind of forcing your hand on that one. So It's gonna be interesting to see. It's gonna be really interesting to see. Obviously, we hope. I mean, even now, if you look at the way the league is structured right now, we have extra games because of the extra playoff seed. So, and I know we cut down on preseason, but it's like how much of this stuff is actually gonna come true? I mean, are we gonna play 16 games? Is there gonna be an extra playoff game this year? They already cut down preseason by half. The Hall of Fame game has been completely just wiped off the schedule. So it's gonna be interesting to see how training camp is affected, because that could be a huge problem because you need training camp to start the season. It's looking real bad, guys. It's not looking great. But hopefully the commissioner comes through and he puts his head together. And we keep waiting for that to happen, where they're like, oh, the NFL will figure it out. The NFL will figure it out. The NFL will figure it out. The NFL doesn't care as much as the other leagues about safety. I've heard that a million times in the national media, and it really doesn't seem that they're like, yeah, we're just going to, I mean, obviously they're cutting down on fan attendance, but they're like, oh, we're just going to just go. And we'll cut down on preseason here and there. But now that training camp is in jeopardy, it would have been nice if they had a better plan than just go. Because if they could have come up with some other idea, it should have been like a month ago. And now we're kind of in the thick of things, and, things are flying around like they are. It could become an ugly situation, and hopefully they're prepared, but it doesn't really seem like they are. It's just a bad spot to be in if you're the league right now. This last news story comes from the Finsider, and if you're interested in Madden 21, and if you're not, this is going to be very quick, but if you are, this is the 10 highest overall Dolphins in Madden 21. We'll go to least highest to the highest. So, lowest to the highest here. Wide receiver Albert Wilson is a 76 overall. Devon Gotcha, defensive tackle, 76 overall. Raekwon McMillan, 76 overall. Matt Breida, 79 overall. Mike Gesicki, 79 overall. Wish we would have gotten the 80 overall, but that's alright. Jordan Howard, 79 overall. X is a 82 overall, which I feel like is way too low. At least should be an 88 overall. Devontae Parker, an 84 overall. Again, way too low. Led the AFC in receiving. 86 overall for Kyle Van Noy, and the highest overall rated Dolphin is Byron Jones at an 88 overall. Don't think anybody's too surprised about that. So yeah, that's your news, ladies and gentlemen. Not a lot of it, but that's as much as we've got right now. A lot of negative news, but I guess really just one negative news story there. But hopefully we can somehow get an NFL season this year, even if it is super shortened by the virus. This first news story, I'm all over the place right now. We're going into the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. This first question comes from Johnson. He says, what makes Skaggs so confident that there will even be a full 16-game schedule as the proliferation of the coronavirus continues? I'm not confident. I never have been. I think months ago, I was talking about how preseason might not even be a thing. And, it's crazy that there is still a preseason, because that does risk a lot. And this goes into the fact that the preparation was very straightforward, and it doesn't really seem like a lot of thought was put into it. And maybe they just couldn't do it any other way. But it is weird. It's like you guys could have gotten like a few 100-yard field somewhere and just had preseason games, or even joint practices instead of preseason games of some kind, like the NBA is doing with the bubble. I don't know. I know there's a lot more NFL personnel than there is NBA personnel, so it's not even really a comparison. But I don't know. It just seems very ill-prepared by the league, and it doesn't seem like they put too much thought into it, unless they just were like, yeah, there's nothing we can do. But we'll see how things are shaking out. I don't think I was ever too confident in it. I'm still, I think I've always been a little bit concerned about it, but I do still think we'll have an NFL season. I don't think we're at the point now where, now, will it be a complete mess? It's looking very likely that it will be. I don't think the commissioner has a real hold on a lot of things, which is unfortunate, but I think the league will still, I think the season will still happen, and it's going to be interesting to see, like you're saying, if the year is shortened, do they take division games away, or do they take, and when I say division games, I mean like AFC East games away, because it's gonna, or do they take, AFC West game opponents away, or something? It's gonna be interesting to see how they handle that. It's a lot of things that go into it. And if they don't have an answer to the problem, it could become very messy. Alright, so this next question comes from SM. SM says, who is the most dangerous team in the AFC East that the rest of the NFL doesn't want to play in the playoffs? This is a great question. The Jets are definitely not even close to this. I think everybody would want to play the Jets in the playoffs. I think if we're... And I guess maybe it's biased to say this. The Bills have... I think the tough thing about the Bills, if you have to go on the road and play the Bills, then it's... and even if you had to go on the road to play in Miami, we have a really good home playoff record. So I don't... that's a tough question. I think it's easier to play defense on with Josh Allen. Now, if Ryan Fitzpatrick has a great offensive line, and we get to Ryan Fitzpatrick that doesn't make bonehead decisions all the time, and the offensive line is much improved, then I think we're probably the most dangerous team in our division. If I'm being honest, I think the talent that we've assembled. Now, the thing that you worry about with the Bills is their defense. And I feel like their defensive line got worse this year. They lost some key pieces. They did add some pieces like AJ Epinesa. I think they added someone else that I can't remember. But they don't really have they added Mario Addison from the Panthers. They don't have they have Jerry Hughes still. This is a tough question. The Patriots, when you talk about the Patriots, I'm not really scared about them. Their offense is still very, very, very under-talented. They have a lot of issues on that offense. Defensively, they got weaker up front, too. Even though they weren't that strong to begin with up front. All right, to answer this question, I will probably say, I guess the Bills, but I don't even believe it when I say that. I really do believe our team, I think we're more explosive as an offense, and I know people think that might be crazy to say that because they have John Brown and Stephon Diggs, but I like the weapons that we have in offense. I think our defense is more I don't think our front seven is better than theirs, but our secondary I think is better. I think the two corners that we have, I don't know. This is a tough question. I could sit here and ramble around this for a long time. I'm just gonna let this one go. It is what it is. I guess you could just say the Bills. And the reason I wouldn't say us is we have a lot of question marks right now in terms of, is the offensive line better? And that's really the only question mark. I guess a lot of question marks isn't the right word to use, or the right way to say that. So yeah, I guess the Bills right now are the most proven one out of all the teams because they did it last year. They had the same team basically coming into this year. They added to the offense a little bit. They lost some guys on the front seven. They added some guys on the front seven. So I don't know. I guess you could say the Bills, even though I don't think they're not even that, they're not scary. I would say I think they're definitely beatable. So this next question comes from Ethan. He says, "Hey Skaggs, it's the opening offensive play of the season, and it's 1st and 10 on our own 25 in Foxborough. What's your play call?" I mean, that's a weird question. I don't know. I'd probably run the football. I'm a big fan of running on 1st down. I'm not a big fan of running on 2nd and 15 though. Like every team in the NFL, let's run it on 2nd and 10. That's got to be the worst play. In my opinion, that's the worst play in the NFL is running on 2nd and 10. So what I wouldn't do is run it on 2nd and 10 to answer your question, Ethan. This next question comes from Mark. He says, "Do you think there will be an NFL season? And if so, who starts for Miami at quarterback? Would you stick with whomever you pick or see what we have at quarterback on their roster?" I think for sure it's going to be Fitzpatrick. And like I said, it comes down to the offensive line. I'm really kind of sick and tired of talking about who's going to start at quarterback, but I think Fitzpatrick will start. This next question comes from SM. He says, "Mr. Skaggs, give a contingency plan at quarterback if Fitzpatrick gets injured in the preseason for the year. Ooh, Josh Rosen would start, and again, this comes down to offensive line. If the offensive line is not where we want it to be, and it really didn't improve that much from a year ago, then I would start Josh Rosen. If not, then it's whoever is better between him and Tua. This next question comes from SM. He says, Josh Rosen throws for 30 touchdowns this year. Do we keep him? What happens with Tua? That's a weird situation to be in. I think you definitely would see what happens the next year. I don't think you would make any decisions the next year. I don't think you would. But after that, I don't know. This next question comes from SM. He says, if Tua is cleared to play medically, but has been decided to not start him until 2021, my question is, do you give him some mop-up time at the end of games, or some type of sub-package to get him up to speed, or keep him out there together? It all comes down to the offensive line. If the offensive line is ready to go, you do not redshirt him. I think when you look at NFL history, you look at some of the things that the great quarterback coaches have said, and even the quarterbacks that have played the game, they say that first year was so valuable to them that it just helped them with the rest of their career. And there's nothing like, they always say you can take as many reps as you want, but there's nothing like actual game action. So to get that kind of experience, if the team is ready for it, then I think they should put Tua in. This next question comes from Douglas. He says, hey Skaggs, if you were the GM, would you have selected J.K. Dobbins with our second round pick, or move slightly with our second round pick, and just gotten him before Baltimore did at the first before us? This is such a weird one. Okay, so you're basically asking me would I have picked J.K. with the first, second, or the second, and traded up with before Baltimore had picked him. I would have to go back and look at the way the board was working at the time, and see what the heck was going on. But I think the Dolphins thought that wouldn't have been the scenario where they wouldn't have been able to get one of their guys, and obviously they didn't, so they ended up having to trade with the 49ers, which at the end of the day I think worked out. But knowing what we know now, I don't think I would have. I think I just kind of would have done what the Dolphins did. I think having that interior offensive lineman who could become a starter is more valuable to this roster at this point in time. This next question comes from William. He says, if you could create or change an NFL rule, what would it be? This is a tough question. I think I would take kickoffs away. Yeah. I think I would take kickoffs out of the game. Other rules that I like, I think I would change overtime to college rules. Both teams get a chance to win with their offenses and defenses. I think I would change the onside kick rule to a 4th and 15. I think those are some of the things I would do to change the league. I think that needs to happen. I think the less special teams is better. The kickoff stuff is just kind of nonsense at this point, especially since they've, we barely get any kickoffs anymore, and all it does is cause a lot of injuries. You could make so much more room for the roster as well, if that's not a thing. And not a significant amount, but I think it's just better for the team, better for the health of the team. I think the number one thing I would change immediately is take kickoffs out of the game. If I had to choose one thing. This last question comes from William. He says, do you believe this Dolphins defense could be top 10? Yeah, I believe it has the talent to be. When you look at the front seven, it's big, it's way stronger, it's faster, it's more athletic. When you look at the linebackers, I feel like they had a really solid season last year. All three of them did. I think Raekwon had really good games. I think Sam McGuavin, especially towards the end of the year, was really starting to get into what we saw of him in the preseason. And I think when you look at Jerome Baker, I think it's just an absolute just stud. He's a very good player for us for most of the year last year. And then you look at the secondary and how much, we have one of the best secondaries in the league now. I feel like those combination of things, if everything comes together like it should, we figure out the free safety position, things should go pretty smooth. I can see this defense definitely being top 10. And I really think this defense is gonna be really good on third down too, which should be fun to watch. So I think this defense is gonna be very, very fun to watch, especially with the system that we run, and I think it really lends itself to, especially with the roster that we've built, to a lot of success. And I'm so glad that, and this philosophy I've always wanted with this defense, in the past with some of the, Matt Burke and Kevin Coyle and some of these other guys. It's very very zone heavy defenses, and I've always hated that, and I've never liked it, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why our secondary was so bad. And just, we gave up so many busted plays because of that. So I'm very happy that we went to more of a traditional bump and run type of a defense, and mixing some blitzes in here and there. And I just think it's a better defensive philosophy. So I think for all of those reasons, the defense should be very, 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 very much improved this year. So that's gonna be it, guys. Like I said, it's there's nothing I could do about. Nothing to talk about, Wish we had more stuff to talk about. Wish we had, clips to look at and training camp and stuff of that nature. Or not training camp, OTAs and some rookie camp stuff. That would have been fun to see too out there slinging the rock. But it is what it is. So I am SkyX83, and I will see you guys next week.